Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditarataschaarteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Ketavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastava Matra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridya Varudya Tetra Kritibihi Shushrushuvistakshana. Hariyom and greetings from Maryville. Whenever you, I, we come across the news, listening to it, reading it, etc., one comes to observe how much suffering there is in society, how much suffering there is in families, how much suffering there is in individualities. Is that fair? What I'm describing is accurate. This suffering is also felt as imbalance. There's an imbalance of rights in society, as an example, an imbalance of power in families. There's an imbalance in acidity in individuals. Whenever there is a micro imbalance in our creation, that micro imbalance can be corrected or balanced by a sadhu, by a great visionary like an Acharya Shankara. Whenever there's a macro imbalance, then a sadhu cannot tend to that. That is when an avatara is needed to restore balance. What we have been doing for years in Vedanta and Bhagavata is to understand and appreciate that every one of us must do their part. Be a sadhu, live by vision. And if you are engaged in this, since you've done your part, you will leave the rest. You will allow the avatara, you will allow Bhagavan Narayana to deal with the macro imbalance. Anyone who's practicing this, you will be energetic, enthusiastic, and empathetic. You will not feel tired and frustrated and dejected. Swami Chinmaya shared, do your best and leave the rest. We're studying this in detail, so we have this conviction. Before we continue with the 11th section of Bhagavatam, right now is a special period for all of us who practice Sanatana Dharma. We are celebrating Deepavali. Now, Deepavali is special certainly in reference to Bhagavan Rama, but we personally have studied how Deepavali is in reference to Bhagavan Krishna. Starting with, please share with me in the chat, or you, if you know, you can share this. What is the second day of Deepavali called? The second day. Naraka Chaturdashi. Yes, you've heard that before? Naraka Chaturdashi. So here is the history of this celebration. This we explored in the 10th section, chapter 59. I'm sharing that, like all of you are going to go back to chapter 59 and re-reference what I had taught. In this, we have our Devis. How many Devis? 16,000. 16,000 Devis send word to Bhagavan Krishna that we have heard that you are a savior, so come and save us because we are imprisoned. And Bhagavan, he listens to their plea. And how we can personalize this is God listens to our prayers. Prayer should be the first option, not the last. This is why in the Contentment Challenge, the second C was conversate. Ask for help. And so Bhagavan came, and the first asura that he interacted with was Mura. And so one of Bhagavan Krishna's names is Murari. The one, Mura felt Bhagavan Krishna is his enemy, not the other way around. Do not define Murari as Bhagavan Krishna's enemy. Bhagavan Krishna has no enemies. He felt Bhagavan Krishna was his enemy. Murari. Mura had 5 heads. All of us have 5 heads too. Can you point to me? Can you show me one of your heads? These are one head. These are another head. This is another head. Our sense organs are Mura. Our sense organs are Mura. And how we can practice being Murari is through Dhamma. Dhamma means calmness of body. When our bodies are not calm, we always want to input, eat more, talk more. But when the body is calm, that is where our sense organs are checked. That's why being physically healthy is important, because your body is more calm. After defeating Murari, Bhagavan Krishna interacts with Bhauma Asura. That's his original name, is Bhauma Asura. He is actually the son of Devi Bhumi. He is the son of the earth, but how he lived and how he made the earth feel, he came to be known as Naraka Asura, the one who had hell inside and outside. And Bhagavan Krishna defeated Naraka Asura, and all of these Devis were freed. And what is very, very, very special about all of this, Bhagavan Krishna uplifted these Devis who were imprisoned. I'd specifically shared with all of you, he decorated them. He made them feel like Ranis. And he didn't just externalize this. Eventually, what did he do? He married all of them. And his marriage is Deepavali. He freed them on day 1, got married the next day. See, that's how the practice is. Wedding is on one day, reception is on another day. Now, personalizing this marginally, do you know who Naraka Asura is? We are. We live in Naraka here. And then what do? We abuse our own mother. Isn't that how we're living with the environment? We are Naraka Asura. We are children of the earth, correct? We were born from her. We will go back to her. So if you really want to celebrate Naraka Chaturdashi, don't just say it. Be the one who serves the earth rather than steals from the earth. Deepavali, I just talked about, Bhagavan Krishna gets married again and again. See, Avali means rose. Imagine how many pairs Bhagavan Krishna had to go around. Rows and rows and rows. Now, one more reference to Bhagavan Krishna. Day 4 is Govardhana Puja. I'm saying it again because we've casually changed that name now to Annakuta when that's not what it's called. The authoritative text, Srimad Bhagavatam, Vivek is not making this up. It is Govardhana Puja. Govardhana Puja. This happened, I believe, in chapter 24. Section 10, chapter 24, is when Bhagavan Krishna was observing as a child that his father and the community, they were all worshiping Indra by collecting all of this food and leaving it out as an offering to Indra. Indra as in the Sura Indra that lives in a different dimension. And Bhagavan Krishna challenged his father. He challenged him by having a dialogue with him. He was the best kid. He didn't argue with him. He simply had a dialogue with him, sharing, why are you worshiping Indra when what you should be worshiping is karma? The implication being, when you follow your responsibilities, you create your own fate. By worshiping Indra, they were hoping that someone else was going to help their fate. Earlier, I used the word, it's deflecting. But Bhagavan Krishna encouraged them to worship karma, as in be responsible, your fate will be better. And they did this by collecting food again, and they did this by offering it to Govardhana Parvata. Though Parvata means mountain, it's really like a hill, a big hill. It's not like the Rocky Mountains or Mount Everest. So they offered this to Govardhana Parvata. And what did they do with all of that food? They didn't dance around the food. They didn't take selfies with the food. They didn't let that food sit there. They gave it to the cows. They gave it to the brahmanas. They gave it to the needy. See how Govardhana Puja was not about them. It was about coming together for those who can use this. I keep sharing again and again and again. What is the purpose of our community? Not our community. It's society. Serve that which is bigger. Making this even more personal. Go means senses. These are my goes, my eyes, my ears. Vardhana means to lift. Who lifted Govardhana Parvata? Bhagavan Krishna did, correct? And he did this in such a focused way, left hand, little finger. His point is, Govardhana Parvata, this whole celebration is to direct your sense organs rather than be controlled by them. Lift up your sense organs. These are ways that we can think about Deepavali more, less in a ritualistic way and more in a practical way. And what is the fifth day of Deepavali? Bhaiya Duja. This is an extension of the Govardhana Puja. A way that we can use our sense organs is to serve our family. That's what Bhaiya Duja is, correct? Bhaiya is symbolic for family. It's an opportunity, it's a reminder to use who you are to help your family. our family, our community, our society. Clear. Naraka Chaturdashi, Deepavali, Govardhana Puja. We continue now, coming back to Bhagavata. The more evolved one is, the more open one is to learning. If you find it's hard to learn, that may be indicative of a strong presence of ego. The more egotistical one is, the less open to learning one is. The more egoless one is, or evolved, the more open to learning one is. The personality that we're learning from right now, Rishi Dattatreya, has no ego. So what is all of this universe to him? It's a Vishwa Vidyalaya. The whole universe is a university to him. And for all of us, see, we go through life with Anubhava. Anubhava means experience. You experience restaurants, you experience vacations, you experience conflict, etc. Those who are less evolved, they just experience. But those who are more evolved, that Anubhava is followed by Manana. What can I learn from this relationship? What can I learn from this accident? What can I learn from this world event? Rishi Dattatreya is telling Raja Yadu, his first teacher is the earth. And what did he learn from the earth? And specifically, what can we practice? Shanti. What is the English word for Shanti with a K? Forgiveness. Our first practice, how we can be like Rishi Dattatreya, brilliant inside and outside, is to forgive. And what's beautiful about this Sanskrit word, built into Shanti is Shanti. Those who forgive are more peaceful. That's why I shared with all of you, just say you're sorry. Just say it's okay, and that relationship will be better. The second teacher is the air. Sometimes air and wind are used synonymously, even though I guess wind is a flow of air. I'm going to pause here. Can you still hear me? I'm getting way too much feedback on this. So you can hear me clearly. If you can't, please move up. I'm not going to use this right now, okay? And you can all hear me, yes? Okay. In Acharya Shankara's Atma Bodha, there's a really beautiful teaching which I remembered from the Vedanta course. It is Asakta Vayuvat Charet. One should be like the wind. The wind moves without getting stuck. If you think of the wind, it can never be stuck anywhere. For those who have seen the movie Black Adam, the new DC Comics book, a movie, there's that one character who controls the wind, right? She creates tornadoes and nobody can stop her. Where did it come from? Bhagavata. So that's how we should live. And specifically, our practice is purify. Be pure, and whoever you interact with, they should feel more pure too. Forgive, purify. The third teacher is space. When we reflect on space, that which is gross cannot affect that which is subtle. That which is subtle cannot affect that which is causal. As an example, fire and air. Fire is subtle, air is more subtle. You can't burn air. Agreed? So Bhagwan's implication here is we should be less gross-minded. Yesterday I used the term, don't make things personal. The more gross-minded you are, you make everything personal then. But the more subtle-minded, causal-minded you are, then you don't take anything personal. And for all of our students in Meaningful Mornings, we explain this, we learn this in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan Krishna shares, for the spirit, it cannot be cut, it cannot be wet, it cannot be burned, it cannot be dried. His point there is cut means earth. Weapons are made from earth, correct? A sword is made from the earth. A bomb is made from the earth. So, earth, water, fire, air cannot touch space. And the spirit is beyond space. So if these can't touch space, and the spirit is beyond space, that means we cannot be killed. From space specifically, our practice is to absorb as much of the negativity that is inflicted upon you, often from me. Just absorb that negativity. Do not be affected by that negativity. Our fourth teacher, water. And I'd shared that there's a physical water and then there's the metaphysical water, that is the Ganga. I was recently sharing with some seekers, the original source of the Ganga is Bhagavan Narayana's toe. Bhagavan Brahma had brought water to wash Bhagavan Narayana's feet. When that water started to fall, that water would have hit the earth and crushed it. Like if you think of the power of a tsunami, the most recent world tsunami killed 250,000 people. Now that's just within the world. Think more along the lines of, my kids sometimes ask me, where are the dinosaurs? So I try to explain to them that Earth got hit, it got too cold, the dinosaurs died. One of our students in this class, her father was telling me, I was at their home, and he was sharing that he had taken his grandchildren to a museum where there were dinosaur bones. And these grandchildren said to that grandfather, when you used to come here, this used to be a zoo, right? That he's so old that it's become a museum. So that water, it would have crushed the earth. So who came in between? Bhagavan Shiva. Bhagavan Shiva came to catch all of that water and slowly allowed that to fall to the earth, where we get to experience that. And metaphysically, that original source of the Ganga is Shravana. Bhagavan Shiva then becomes Manana. And what should you do with the Ganga on earth? Nididhyasana, or practice. And specifically our practice is to refresh. Whenever matters are tough, refresh. How do you refresh? Practice. I keep sharing with seekers. Yesterday I was interacting with some young couples. And I was sharing that I've observed with many young couples, young parents, that they're becoming more stress-filled and anxiety-filled because they have more responsibilities. And they've become too busy to learn not to be busy. That is a very unenvious position to be in, that you're so busy that you don't know how not to be busy. And I gave the example of, it's like you're too weak to take medicine. Wouldn't that be an awful case? So my point here is that when you feel dejected, refresh yourself with reading, writing, reflecting. And as you interact with people, they should feel refreshed. Many of you, I see you, you're smiling, you're taking notes. Many of you have fallen asleep. Good. You will feel refreshed when you wake up. But if you interact with someone and they feel more stress and anxiety and dejection, then you're not practicing being like water. And our fifth teacher, please note I didn't say Rishi Dattatraya's fifth teacher, he doesn't need one, we do, is fire. Now I'm going to elaborate on this more because the next two teachers are simpler in understanding. Fire is that which is always moving higher. And for all of us, for us to practice this, if we want to move higher in life, become more evolved, that means we can't be held back as much by articles. The more materialistic you are, the less you'll be able to move. For Vivek's family specifically, why we don't have pets, because we do have two pets. And also, we travel a lot. And if we're traveling, that means we can't care for our pets. So my point is, that would hold us back, correct? And as you move higher in your life, you're trying to be more evolved. You can't be held back by articles. You also can't be held back by criticism. Please try to reflect on that. If you want to be a visionary in your life, everyone who doesn't have your vision is not going to understand you. And you have to be like fire, that you just keep on moving, whether people put garbage at you or gold, right? For fire, it's the same. You have to not be affected by that. More insights into fire based on Bhagavatam. Rishi Dattatreya shares that fire pervades all that is made out of wood. Correct? That in only some places does that fire manifest in that wood. Right now, we're grateful it's not manifesting in the wood that is our house. But if you're cold, then you want it to manifest there. So Rishi Dattatreya shares knowledge is like that. Knowledge is everywhere, but only those who have that acumen are able to tune into that knowledge. And for all of us celebrating Deepavali, the container is the body, the wick is the mind, the oil is our print or vasanas. And what are we supposed to do with the mind? Light it on fire. The fire of knowledge. One more insight about fire. There's a lot that is shared here. Rishi Dattatreya shares that fire keeps replenishing itself through tapa. Through tapa. The more it burns, the more bright it becomes. For us, I had shared the practice for fire is to accept. Yes, that was our fifth practice, to accept. A way to accept others is to focus on their strengths. The word tapa means to focus. What should I focus on? How useless you are. The more I do that, the more I become like that, correct? But the more I focus on your strengths, I invoke the same. I become more brilliant then. Okay, say it out loud. What is our first practice coming from earth? To forgive. Good. Next practice coming from air? To purify. Next practice coming from space? To absorb. Next practice coming from water? To refresh. And final practice coming from fire? To accept. Isn't that so cool? We just invested 3 days on acceptance and how that's going on. Okay, 2 more teachers. This is all new content. I'm reminding everyone the way we're approaching this. I'm first sharing with you what factually is shared in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then I'm coming down to sharing what is more relatable to us. And then finally, what is practicable. our to verb. The moon. The moon. I'm still in chapter 7. I'm reading verse 48. 11:7:48. Visargadya shmashananta bhava dehasya natmanaha kalanam iva chandrasya kalena vyakta vartmana. Visargadyaha shmashananta, which means from birth to cremation. Shmashana means cremation. Bhava dehasya natmanaha. All of this change happens to the body and not to the spirit. Now he gives an example. Kalanam iva chandrasya, just like the phases of the moon. The moon waxes and wanes. But does the moon actually wax and wane? The moon doesn't actually wax and wane. All of those who are younger, you agree with me, yes? Kalanam avyakta vartmana. So he gives this idea that what's happening to the body doesn't happen to the spirit. He shares that the same happens in terms of the phases of the moon. But, now the but here is, people don't realize that because time is that torrential. Time is so stealth-like that we don't even realize this is not happening to the spirit. If I can share this in a very simple way, those who are busy don't realize anything. They're just busy. Okay. Adding a little bit more to this. The moon waxing and waning is all about perspective. If our perspective is from Earth, then the moon waxes and wanes. If you were on the moon, if you had a higher perspective, it wouldn't wax or wane, correct? So if you have a low perspective on the world is an awful place. If you have a high perspective on the world is an awesome place. This same world is where Bhagavan Krishna is living. You just have to have that perspective. And so Rishi Dattatreya emphasizes here that we don't perceive this because we're stuck on time. Everyone is rushing without realizing. And we came across the same message in Ramayana. In the Ramayana, Bhagavan Rama points to Sri Lakshmana, points out to Sri Lakshmana. You see all those fish. The fish are swimming in water that's evaporating. But they don't realize that because they're busy. And for all of us, remember, we let go of articles, beings, and circumstances. We're so busy with that which is not important. There's no tuning into that which is important. For all of you, I shared, forget about your IQ. I'm saying that in front of your parents. Forget about your IQ. Just invest in your EQ. You will be much more evolved and successful in life. I'm sharing my guarantee with that. And what's awesome is that if your parents disagree, I'm on my way to the airport. They can disagree all they want. Here's our practice. This is our 7th practice. Observe. Observe. The more you observe, that means the less busy you are, you have a higher perspective. Now everyone's thinking, but Vivekji, how do we practice observation? Be more organized. Those who are more organized are less busy. Those who are more organized, they can see more then, correct? one more teacher. And why I'm focusing on the moon and the sun, Bhagavan Krishna is relating to the moon and Bhagavan Rama is relating to the sun. This is the best Deepavali celebration. Verse 50, 50. Guner gunan upadatte yata kalam vimunchati nateshu yujjate yogi gobirga iva gopitaha gunaihi gunan upadatte, which means sense objects, and I'm just checking to make sure the mic is off. The sense objects are coming into the sense organs. Yatha kalam vimunchati, and at the right time, those same sense objects are given by the sense organs. And here's the philosophy. Nateshu yujjate yogi, for the one who's content, lots of sense objects come into their sense organs and lots of sense objects leave their sense organs, but they're never caught up in this coming and going. Gobir ga iva gopitaha, just like the sun. The sun evaporates waters, then condenses those waters and distributes those waters, but the sun never gets wet. Awesome, no? These connections. Okay, trying to be brief. I have to keep moving really soon. How we can understand this more. The sense objects come to the sense organs. What Rishi Dattatreya has learned and how he practices is that he shares those sense objects. It's come to him, consciously, unconsciously, but he shares it. In our culture, whenever we earn, specifically I'm talking about resources like money, often that earning, those resources come with some negativity. And that's why some of those resources have to be given for that whole matter to be more shuddha. For one to be moved by those resources more. Those who only get and get and get and don't give, they're not moved by those resources. When there's the right balance of getting and giving, like a yogi, that's when one is moved. And the way that Pujya Swami Tejomayananda shared this, what we learn from the sun is not to depend. Sense objects here means articles, being circumstances. But here's the more subtle teaching too. To not make anyone dependent. We subtly, egotistically want people to depend on us. That's not living like the sun. Here is our practice. The practice is share. All of our Balavir students, right? We teach them share. I'm telling all of you, share. I was sharing with a seeker recently that if you don't share your privileged, that really means you're underprivileged. If you know you're privileged, you obviously would share it. But if you're not sharing it, it means you don't know it. That means you don't have it. And Pujya Swami Tejomayananda specifically shared about the sun. In terms of the sun and the ocean, the sun evaporates all of that salty water, correct? But when it rains, it becomes sweet water. So for all of us with our salty personalities, sharing makes it more sweet. Have you all seen those cars that have those stickers, Salt Life? It means they're living in a cranky way. If people are salty with you, you be sweet with them. Oh.